Good morning, and welcome to today's webcast, Boost Budgeting and Forecasting with Scenario Planning. Before we begin, I'm going to play a brief housekeeping video.
Welcome, and thank you for viewing our webcast series. Before we begin, please keep the following in mind. You can customize how you view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls of the top right of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons that relate to a different aspect of our session. You can download a PDF of today's slides from the Slide Deck and Handouts widget. You can ask questions by typing in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. This presentation is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters from Moss Adams, Brian Favorat, Senior Manager, and Kristi Armijo, Senior Manager. Brian has experience selecting, maintaining, and deploying financial system solutions and provides management consulting services to public, private, and not-for-profit clients. He implements corporate performance management solutions that allow for enhanced analytics and business insights. Kristi manages cloud-based corporate performance management and business intelligence platforms. She implements CPM solutions that enable businesses to gain enhanced analytics and business insights by streamlining financial planning and analysis processes, automating data collection and consolidation, and providing real-time visibility into key performance metrics. And with that, I will pass it over to Kristi to get us started.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Here is the topic at hand. We'll be discussing the challenges you face while forecasting and budgeting in a management insight solution with a value-based approach. So many of you are probably starting your budgeting cycle or maybe wrapping up a reforecast, maybe both. So today's topic is likely to be top of mind. And those challenges that you face in planning Excel are very relevant right now. Sometimes I think of the planning cycle kind of like a New Year's resolution, new year, new you, new year, better process. But those challenges you faced last cycle are probably present today. So let's talk about the planning cycle. In order to get a comprehensive plan, you might need multiple templates: revenue, cost of sales, maybe you need to do some payroll and benefits, or what about your marketing spend or travel expenses? So you have these templates and you need to get them out to the team, so you distribute them to populate. And some of these team members might be getting multiple templates to fill out for their departments. So you start getting them back from the team, and you're going to start maybe noticing that they have changed some of your formatting, or maybe that your formulas are no longer calculating properly. And when they're not calculating properly, then you're going to start questioning, is this the right data for the budget or a reforecast? And then it begs the question, are you missing any of these files? So now you're dealing with a data integrity, some version control issues, and you're really lacking automation. And then you kind of start the fun process of getting all these files and getting them consolidated into a final forecast or budget to start getting reports out to the team. But what happens during this process if you get an email or a call and someone needs to make some changes to their forecast or budget? So then you start noticing as you're getting through that you might be missing some of those templates. So you're having to spend a lot of time trying to get the data together. And this is where you lack automation, and it makes it hard for the team to collaborate effectively because they're working in silo, and you're spending a lot of time getting the data organized and less time utilizing the data to drive the business. And what if you need to get data from multiple systems, or you need complex formulas? Can Excel handle this in an efficient way, or does it slow down the process? And what happens when you need to maybe do a reforecast and a budgeting cycle at the same time? So these challenges don't allow us to respond to the current state of the business. You're spending a significant amount of time with the data and less time making decisions, which does not let you be agile to the business. And the term agile emphasizes the importance of having the best available information to make informed decisions. And making decisions promptly that align with your core strategies and goals depends on having access to the information. So it begs the question, where is the data located? If you're using multiple spreadsheets, it might be in a shared drive. Maybe it's an email that you're trying to recall. And just locating the information can be very time consuming. And it really takes away from your planning cycle. And if it's too long, people are going to start becoming disengaged in the process. What if you don't have clear access to between your planned version and actuals? Or more critically, are there emerging trends that you should be aware of that it could impact your forecast or budget? And being able to identify these trends with actuals versus forecasts, or maybe a combination of both, means you need not only the spreadsheet with the planned data, but also an updated version with the current information. This brings us back to the term of time consumption, which puts pressure on the concept of being agile and on the team itself. Adding these challenges up, you might start to soon find yourself considering, is there a solution that allows our team to create a standardization in the planning process while encouraging engagement, reduction in the spreadsheets, having access to data at your fingertips, and can it make us more efficient? And that's what I mean by being agile. So having the capability to have a side-by-side comparison can be incredibly insightful. What is the trend? What did we expect? And what is actually happening now? So when you consider a number in isolation, such as an operating expense, on its own, this number may not be telling any story because it really lacks context. However, what if you could take your budget or forecast and compare it to last year's actuals? Suddenly, you're starting to add a significant amount of meaning, which in turn aids in your decision making. And this is the essence of being agile, examining data to understand where things are headed versus what is actually occurring. Imagine having an automated system that consolidates all the necessary information, including original plans and expected outcomes in one place. This will allow you to make decisions swiftly. In context of budgeting, consider the ability to view variances and trends all on one report. It's not crucial to have like a large set of data at your fingertips, but what you really want to kind of look at is what are the trends and incorporating those into your budget. By examining some few key data points, you should be able to quickly determine, is this a trend and how can I address it? This is a proactive stance. It's much more beneficial than identifying the trend and finding out it's too late to react, which could lead to some consequences within the organization. And this brings us to the startling metric at the bottom of the page. 64% of annual budgets become outdated within 4 to 6 months. Think about the effort that goes into developing these plans, kind of going back to what we were earlier discussing. And then you're maintaining these spreadsheets and coordinating with the budget managers. much of this effort becomes obsolete in such a short amount of time. So if you have a centralized system where updates are straightforward, you're not waiting on information, this leads to a budget that can be locked down and actively managed, enabling you to make decisions and discuss in real time. And staying ahead of that 64% is what I mean to be agile to the business. We'd like to know, how long does your typical budgeting process take? 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months? Did you ever finish last year's budget? So you can make your selection and then click submit. And then Brian, I'd love to hear what you're hearing in the marketplace.
Yeah, it often spans the spectrum, and it sometimes depends on the seniority of the people in the business, how long the business has been in operations, new activities that are going on. There's all these different features and components to what's been happening recently that can create some instability in that. And in addition to that, there might be different budgeting cycles for different parts of the business. So it can be challenging. I think ideally everybody is trying to get out there, at least their annual plan, and they're trying to put it together in a quick and tidy fashion. But then in addition to that, it's not only getting the annual plan together, but how can we then do forecasting in a meaningful way too? So these challenges are kind of perpetual in nature, as I'm sure most of you have experienced. So we really appreciate to see some of the feedback here. We can switch over now, Kristi, to the polling results. There we have it. So quite a distribution here. So 25%, 4 to 6 weeks, about a third in 2 months, a third there in 3 months, and we ever finished last year's budget. Yeah, and that's not too uncommon a problem, as everybody can see here, so you don't necessarily have to feel alone. And that's something that clients often ask us too, like what is the cadence? What is the best cadence? What is the best practice? And a lot of times that comes back to, what best benefits the business. Now, obviously having insights and being able to plan creates great accountability, but there's also getting there in a meaningful way. It's not just putting a plan together, but putting together a good plan, one that can then be tracked and measured and really has the buy-in from the organization. I'll turn that back to you, Kristi.
Beautiful. Thanks, Brian. All right. So as many of you know, collecting and utilizing the right data to gain insights into the business is essential to making informed decisions. While the importance of this is widely recognized, there is a significant gap between the desire to capture it and utilize the data and the actual implementation of these practices. Many organizations have adopted a siloed approach to data management, which is really evident in the fragmentation of these efforts it provides to the business. Consider this: 83% of CEOs want their organization to be data-driven, yet only 30% currently believe they are. So what happens when you move from spreadsheets and adopt an automated system that integrates the entire organization into a comprehensive and continuously updated plan? What is the full impact of this transition? In the current state, you might distribute individual spreadsheets to the team to fill out, often without considering current activities or discussions. And this information might not make it back to you in time to be integrated effectively into the overall process. With an automated system, you initiate the process with a guiding decision, and each department contributes at the same time. You gain a comprehensive view of the bottom line in real time. This shift not only will allow you to have a budget and forecast kind of as your goalposts, but in addition, you're going to have a process throughout the year. Any delays in this data management can have a ripple effects to the organization, and staying ahead is crucial. Being data-driven does not mean you need excessive details at your fingertips. It means having a strategic plan that represents a business strategy available to the decision makers when needed. If you're relying on spreadsheet, you are potentially delaying or jeopardizing the parts of the process. Reflecting on the statistics on the right-hand side, 83% of CEOs desire a more data-driven organization, and this compares to only 30% who believe they have achieved this. And this really highlights the gap between aspiration and reality. One of the key aspects of our work involves implementing Workday Adaptive Planning. Adaptive Planning is a solution designed for business users to easily own and operate their own planning and forecasting process without needing excessive technical skills or IT oversight. It focuses on empowering business users and enabling them to engage in planning, conduct what-if scenarios, and perform budget-to-actual reporting alongside summarizing key results. Now, I'm going to pass over to Brian for a demo of Workday Adaptive Planning.
Perfect. Thank you, Kristi. All right. I'm just going to transition my screen here. Bear with me, everyone. And Kristi, just let me know when that comes up.
I can see it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Kristi. All right. So building on what Kristi had just discussed there, and for everyone's benefit here today, what you are looking at is Workday Adaptive Planning, previously referred to as Adaptive Insights. So that's how many people might have heard of or know of it. So what you're seeing on my screen here is a simple report that will show us a variance between what I'm going to show here today is scenario planning. So let's set the stage. We're going to kind of fast forward, and we're through, perhaps our initial iteration of a budget. So I have the current budget here. And then what we might want to do is bring in some more of those operational or management insights, right? So we go through this process of, what if or what could be, right? And I'm sure a lot in the organization have some inputs as to, if we were able to increase revenues or decrease expenses, and if we got there, how would we do it? What would that look like? That sort of thing. So really having a tool and a structure, a foundation like this to be able to manage the data in an automated fashion. So having all of your actuals come in, making reporting all that much easier, that's all well and good and wonderful. And we love having that feature. But in addition to that, we also like to be fluid. We like to be adaptable to, changes in the organization, and also be able to plan for maybe some of the unforeseen, or run some different scenarios based off of, some of the latest information that we have, or perhaps some of our aspirations. So what I'm going to do here is a couple quick examples. I'm just going to walk through just some simple ones that often come up in many different organizations. And I know we have a slew of different people on today, so some of these might affect your industry, and there's others that could be related to it. But one of the things I'd like to point out here is something that could potentially affect revenue planning. So what you're seeing here is a pricing sheet. And as a quick example of what I'd like to illustrate here today is if we have pricing, and that pricing could be for products, commodities, widgets, and by extension, services, or even if you're in the higher education space, perhaps tuition, where we have those revenue generating line items, we may want to say, okay, well, what if we made a change to them? So in your scenario, what we can imagine here is I can highlight what I'd like to make adjustments to. And there's a number of different ways we could do this, but I'm just going to start here with a simple one. I'm going to take revenue line items here, and we have the budget for 24. And I'm going to make it a quick adjustment to this. So I'm going to say adjust my revenue by a percentage. So I want everything to go up, let's say 2%. Oh, and actually before I do that, I'm skipping ahead here a little bit. I'm in my current budget, and this is really the key. What I want to do is, instead of adjusting my current budget, this is our best guess estimate here. I want to create a quick scenario to see, what that adjustment would look like in comparison to this. So before I make that adjustment, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight my current budget, and then I'm going to click on New Scenario. And for this scenario, I'm going to be very uncreative. I'm going to just simply refer to this as Revenue Adjustment. Okay, and we can do a variety of different scenarios, but we'll start simple here. So I'm going to go ahead and create that new scenario based off of my base version there of current budget. Do I want to switch to the new scenario? Yes. So you'll see that our new scenario just looks exactly like our current base scenario. But in this one, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make that adjustment here in my, as you can see at the top, revenue adjustment. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and click adjust. I'm going to apply a simple increase here, let's say of 2%. We'll click OK. I'm going to save my change. And just like that, we've made a very quick and agile adjustment to our revenue. And what's also neat about this is it highlights for us what has changed. So that way, looking at the screen, I'm thinking, okay, well, what's different here? And this is what points it out to us. So if we really want to see how this change manifests, what I'm going to do is pivot back now to my report here that I have a simple P&L report. And I'm going to change that second version on my screen. And I'm going to do a quick refresh here. And then what I'm going to get in this version 2 drop down is the option for my revenue adjustment. And I'm going to run this report. And now what this report's going to render for me are the impacts of that pricing change. So you're seeing most of that at the top of this P&L report in the revenue section. So I have some adjustment there to product revenue and also cost of goods sold. So just like that, with a simple change to my my product revenue planning sheet there, I can see the impacts and all the things tethered to it run throughout the statement and where I might end up on that. So that's showing a quick example of a revenue adjustment. Let's do another fun one. So personnel, this is often a pretty involved area of planning, and something that often comes up is like, well, we may need to hire some new people, or we're changing our workforce, whatever the case might be. Let's walk through a quick example of what it would look like if we were to hire, let's say, 3 more people in a certain department. So what I'm going to do, I'm in my workforce planning model here. I'm going to add a couple of rows, quite easy that way. I have my people. I'm going to identify the state for tax purposes. So for this example, I'm just going to load them all into New York there. I'm going to choose a few dates. So I'm going to put these people into, let's say, November. I'll just have them all start the 1st of November in our example here. And then we'll put some salaries in. So in this example, let's say, we have somebody at 40,000 maybe, and then another at 50, and then another at 60. We're not being too particular here. I just want to get some data into the system. And then last but not least, I'm going to have them allocated. So if you've seen our prior webinars, we've talked about this before. It's a really neat feature in a personnel model to be able to allocate people across departments. We're going to skip over that example for today, but just want to provide some color commentary as to what you're seeing over there. I'm going to save my adjustment, and just like that, I've been able to apply 3 new people to our personnel burden, our overhead here. So with that adjustment, and I did make a small mistake there. Let me take those out here for a moment. So in line with my example, what I'm trying to do here is not put them into the current budget. What I'd like to do is see what the effect would be if I put them into my expense. So what I'm going to do, I keep skipping ahead there, of course, we'll click on new scenario, and I'm going to make another one. I'm going to call this one expense adjustment. So we'll click create there. We'll click yes. And now that I have my new version spinned up, it's like, okay, Brian, going a little too fast today. That's okay. Easy enough for me to fix. I got my 3 new people in there again. There we got New York. I'm going to add my dates back in here. We'll add our salaries back in there. We'll come over here. I'm going to do my last adjustment. All right. Now this time, let's make sure I got my ducks in order. I got my expense adjustment version here, got my 3 new people. We're going to go ahead and click save. So in this expense adjustment version, again, which is based off of my current budget, I've made some new adjustments. And again, you're seeing them highlighted there to show me. I'm going to pop back over to my report so that I can see the fruit of my labor, right? So I'm going to do a quick refresh. I'm going to adjust, instead of looking in that revenue adjustment version. Now, I could do these in the same version if I'd like to. What I'm showing for demonstration purposes today, if I wanted to create some different scenarios to see how those play out, you can do this as well. So a lot of flexibility here. But I'm going to pivot over to my expense adjustment sheet. It looks like my department there may not have updated. You know what? We're going to walk through another quick example here. Let's see. goes in. Well, a little commission income there. That's what you get for trying to cut a couple corners, but that's okay. We'll come back to our report. We'll go ahead and refresh. Oh, dear me. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to circle back to this one. But what I'm going to do to continue our example here, let's go through another quick one where I'm going to make an adjustment to our pay raise. So we're going to say that our people here are going to get a pay adjustment. So we're going to go to expense adjustment. We're going to make a quick adjustment here and say, okay, instead of a 3% raise, people this year are going to get a 4%. So we're going to have a quick adjustment up. Let's go percent by 1. We'll click OK. Oops. So adjust. Do a value by 1. We'll click OK. We'll click Save. Very good. Refresh. And there we go. So sorry, a little delay there, but now what you're able to see on the screen, some additional expense adjustments coming through. So easy to do, easy to manage in the system here. But again, what we really want to be able to do is say, okay, in these new scenarios, after these things play out, what is the effect going to be? So with these salary adjustments that I just made, it looks like our financial burden would be an increase of $195,000. That's showing the difference there between our base budget and our expense adjustments. And similarly, if I wanted to see, what the impact to the revenue would be, I could run that out separately, and I could see that as well. So a combination of these things, how do they play out? If I wanted to merge them together, Adaptive has a really neat feature here that allows me to say, okay, take my expense adjustment, and what I'd like to do with that is merge that now with my core, my base. So I can say, okay, let's merge this together. I'm going to merge and delete the scenarios that I don't need. Merge successful, fantastic. So what that does, and that's the end of our demonstration there, is it will move any of the adjustments that I wanted to keep there to my base, or in my example there, my current budget. All right, perfect. Well, I know we have a couple minutes left here, so I appreciate everybody working through that demo example there with me. But to highlight some of the items that we had been talking about today and just bring some visibility again to the value proposition that we have here, what we're attempting to do is take away all the time, and you're seeing in that current state, that pyramid in the center of the screen here, all of those operational elements to what everybody's working through, spending a lot of time getting the spreadsheets together, getting things lined up, spending time on getting your reports and your controls put in place, and then spending a very little amount of time doing the analysis of that. What we aspire to is what you're seeing in the desired state there on the right side, where you're spending more of your time doing the analysis and really the business value add type work, and less time doing report controls and data management and all the rest of it. And as you saw in that demo there, what I'm able to do is I'm able to work through quickly, make some adjustments, get feedback from the team, render that out on a report, and really then provide that story as to, okay, if we do this, here's what the implication would be. And then if we want to adopt those as part of our plan, it's really easy and seamless to bring it into play. So we want to embed the information in the business processes, find out where we have some of those inefficiencies, reduce some of the time that we're spending, and really create this comprehensive plan, perform, people, and communication platform. And that's really, in the FP&A role, what we're trying to do is provide everybody a better mechanism for how do we iterate what our plan is going to be, get people involved with that, and then work towards those goals. So we're embedding that information in the decision-making window. What is happening, rather than answering the question, what has happened? And by extension, this allows us to do more rolling forecasts. So instead of only focusing on the 1 year, we can continue to have just this ongoing perpetual forecast. And we'll be talking more about that in future webinars. So in conclusion, benefits of automated reporting, powerful forecasting capabilities, efficiencies, reducing the time to reports, dashboarding capabilities, and capturing those KPIs that really drive and manage the business. So I just want to say thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Brian and Kristi, for a great presentation today. If we didn't have time to answer your questions, we will do our best to follow up with you after the webcast. Here's a link to an online survey where you can provide feedback for today's presentation. Please take a moment to complete this survey as your feedback is very important to us. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us again next time.